plenty of money in this world. There's plenty of money in this country. It's just in the wrong hands.
And I will be damned if the same politicians who refused to act then are going to try to come back today and say we need a middle-of-the-road approach to save our lives. That is too much.
Give us some of that socialism that the oil and gas industry has had for a century.
Freedom is back in style. Welcome to the revolution.
Yeah, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song.
Sean Hannity. The new Sean Hannity Show. More behind-the-scenes information on breaking news and more bold, inspired solutions for America.
All right, happy Friday, and yes, we made it, and glad you are with us. 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of this Friday extravaganza. A lot of news to get to today. I thought Bill Hemmer's interview with the Attorney General Barr is everything that we've said, and it is all going to be done. We're going to get to justice. And by the way, I don't take a lot of joy in the fact that there are people that are likely facing jail time for the things that they have done here. Hang on, I got to send a text. All right, there you go. So but it's not the 99.9%. We got to remember that. You know, occasionally you get these stories about a bad cop. I remember the first person that used that term was Joe DeGeneva. Dirty cops. I remember like flinching at the term because you don't want to think about people in the highest levels of power abusing that power, corrupting the awesome responsibility that we give them, or people in the intelligence community, you know, turning those powerful weapons that we need in an ugly and dangerous and evil world against us. You don't want that happening. And it has happened. And the Attorney General laid it out today, what happened. We're going to go over a lot of what he said, and I'm going to sort of talk around a few of these things because I think it's that important, this interview. I thought Bill Hemmer did a phenomenal job. My colleague at the Fox News Channel, all credit to him. And he was nice enough even to come on the air with us last night. Before we get to that, we got to welcome. So Ethan had the baby. Well, no, Ethan didn't have. Ethan's wife had the baby. What time, JCO? About 4:30 this morning?
4:35 in the morning.
And it is name?
I think the name is still being bandied about. I have not been sent a text about
I didn't get any in. I've been texting. He doesn't write me back. I'm like, gee,
They
thanks.
haven't decided on a name. They're still deciding.
They're still deciding. Okay, but mother and baby are healthy and everything went well.
They're doing well.
They're doing well. So
Very
we have another
excited.
member of the Hannity crew.
We're very excited for the new bundle of joy.
I know. And Linda's getting her big award next week, so we're really happy about that.
We're so proud of her. Really
so
fun for
proud
her
of
to be
her.
on the West Coast.
Yeah, it's exciting. All right, we'll talk more about that when she gets back. All right, let me go to Barr. I mean, it's like one thing after another that he's saying here is it takes your breath away. We have a long 2-minute montage that Jason put together, and I think I want to start with that, Jason. And because if you're paying attention, and this goes to the heart of what I never understood. I always liked Jeff Sessions, and I don't know where he was for all of this. And that became problematic. All right, let's listen to the Attorney General, William Barr, on Fox.
How do you think John Brennan and James Clapper handled the Russian investigation?
Well, again, I don't want to speculate about the facts at this point.
At all?
I know some facts, but it's premature to be discussed.
Can you tell us what the Steele dossier had to do with this? What role did that play?
Well, that's one of the questions, that we're going to have to look at. It's a very unusual situation to have opposition research like that, especially one that on its face had a number of clear mistakes and a somewhat jejune analysis, and to use that to conduct counterintelligence against the American political campaign is would be a strange development. I'm not sure what role it played, but that's something we have to look at.
Do you smell a rat in this at this point?
I don't know if I'd describe it a rat. I would just say that the answers I'm getting are not sufficient.
Just to follow up on that, Republicans have said for months that these men, Brennan, Clapper, maybe James Comey, had it in for Trump. Do you think that's true?
Again, I'm not going to speculate about their motives.
In the period of time between Election Day and the inauguration, did anyone in government or in intelligence, did they take action to justify their decisions?
Between Election Day, did you say?
Between Election Day of 2016 in November and Inauguration Day.
I think there were some very strange developments during that period. That's one of the things we want to look into.
Such as?
Such as the handling of the meeting on January 6th between the intelligence chiefs and the president, and the leaking of information subsequent to that meeting.
Was that meeting in New York City?
Yes.
In Trump Tower?
Yes.
What questions do you have about what happened that day?
Again, I'm not going to get into that.
But it's on your mind.
That's one of the things we need to look at.
Can you characterize how far advanced you are in understanding that meeting?
We're still in the stage of gathering all the information.
Now, we knew yesterday, this is what's pretty fascinating, there were suspicions, according to James Baker, the general counsel. You know, I can't figure out James Baker. I don't know what to think. And I know there's a criminal referral on him, but he was the one guy that knew the law. He was the top lawyer for the FBI under Comey that said, yeah, Hillary broke the law here. Why are we arguing about this? And he basically was surrounded and overruled by his top colleagues. And so that's interesting to me. And also he said they were very concerned that meeting that the attorney general was talking about, Barr, at Trump Tower. Now, this is the warning meeting. Well, there is a dossier out there and it's salacious, but it's unverified. And the thought among Baker and others were, oh my gosh, James Comey is trying to blackmail the president and hold something over the president's head. Now, in the course, and it makes sense. Because, for example, why, if they thought there might be some collusion in the Trump campaign with Russia, at what point did they not think that, well, we don't have any reason to believe Donald Trump has ever colluded with Russia? Well, maybe we need to give him a heads up and maybe he'll work with us. That never occurred to them. Or the fact that, okay, Donald Trump never came from the political world. He was a businessman. He didn't hold any office before this. Now, I knew Donald Trump for 20 some odd years, and I guarantee you, every time he'd hire somebody, you're my guy, right? All right, I got you. I'm counting on you. Get this building put up. Get this done. I need this done by this day. That's how he rolled in that world. So when he says to Comey, all right, you're my guy, right? We're working together. We're on a team here. Comey could have just gently said, it's a little different than in the private sector, and broke it down. But no, he didn't want that. You know, he felt the need, the compulsion to write down notes after he left that meeting. But the problem is what he told then President-elect Trump in January of 2017, before he became president, before he was sworn in, that the dossier is salacious and unverified. Now, the biggest problem with that is in October before the election, James Comey's name is right there on the verified. It says it right on the FISA application. Nunes, Grassley, Graham memos all say the bulk of that information is the bought and paid for, perhaps New York Times is right, Russian disinformation of Hillary Clinton. So he's verifying it in October of 2016. So you want to talk about the strange period in between that Barr is acknowledging exists, the Attorney General? Yeah, that's strange. Because if you put in a FISA application, that is a warrant to spy on an American citizen, and you're putting in there information that wasn't verified, never corroborated. Now, in retrospect, we know unverifiable as its own author. When push came to shove, under oath, under the threat of perjury, in an interrogatory in Great Britain, I have no idea if any of this is true. It became the basis of a document that our FBI director signed as verified and corroborated, and they purposely withheld where it came from. And we've learned in the last few weeks that everybody, including Comey, by the way, even Andrew Weissman, that Bruce Orr in his closed-door testimony warned everybody it's unverified. Clinton paid for it. Steele hates Trump. Be careful. That was August of 2016. And then, of course, 10 days. We learned from John Solomon's reporting. This woman at the State Department met with Steele, said Steele has a deadline. His deadline was Election Day. And he's trying to get dirt on Donald Trump in the State Department. And then she warns she did the right thing, warning the FBI. So that's 10 days before Comey puts that signature on the FISA warrant. Then in January, it's unverified. Yeah, that sounds strange. That sounds like the Attorney General gets it. And when we get to the bottom of it, wow, think about this. They would not tell FISA court judges in a FISA application to spy on an American citizen, Carter Page. But more importantly, Carter Page has never been charged with anything. As a matter of fact, Carter Page, as he has said in interviews right here on this show, part of his work caused him to travel abroad. And as he traveled abroad, he would go to countries like Russia. But he had such a good relationship with our intel community, and he is an American patriot, that when he came back and the government wanted to debrief him, he willingly sat and gave whatever answers they wanted to help and assist his country. He sat down once for Mueller. That was the end of that. He wasn't they used that as a ruse to get into the Trump campaign and spy. And they did it in a multitude of other ways. Now we know that Stefan Halper was spying on Papadopoulos, who was, also we even have the blonde bombshell flirt in this novel that showed up apparently flirting with Papadopoulos to get information. You can't even write a novel like this, and then you get it in Sam Clovis and Carter Page. So that all went down. There's multiple entries of spying here. Comey's saying that we didn't spy. Well, what is a FISA application? It's a warrant to spy. And I don't know why they think that they're going to get away with this. Never mind the fact that you have the same group of people with all the evidence you'd ever want in terms of violating the Espionage Act. And Hillary Clinton, they all did everything they could do to get her off and rig that investigation. But by doing the spying and doing this FISA and paying for the Steele crap that they used to deny civil liberties to people, they're doing all of this stuff to rig an election after they rigged the investigation to save the favored candidate to beat the candidate that wasn't favored, and then lie to that candidate. Oh, no, it's not verified. Months later. Meanwhile, a second FISA warrant application had been approved in the interim. You have to re-up those every 3 months and then try to bludgeon him with an insurance policy, which is this whole fake, fraudulent conspiracy and hoax, because just the opposite seems to be true. That's why I call it the biggest abuse of power corruption scandal in American history. And it's only as we go through some more of these cuts. And then we've got Greg Jarrett and Alan Dershowitz. And then we've got Scott Eulinger coming on today, retired CIA ops officer and Russian intel ops expert. Everybody knew Russia did this. They've done it to so many other countries. They've done it to us in the past. Devin Nunes put out an article in the Washington, either the Times or the Examiner, I forget now, in 2014, warning Russia would do this. We know Putin's a hostile actor, but it's better to get along with him. And the best way to take Russia down to his knees is keep producing more energy. It is the heart and soul of that economy. And get it cheaply to our allies in Western Europe and around the world. And for the first time in 75 years, we are energy independent and now a net exporter of energy. All right, got to take a break. We'll come back. A lot to get to here. This is, it's all coming clearer every day. And I'm hearing Yeah, that Horowitz investigation, maybe as early as next week.
If you're ready to get out of the media spin room, you've come to the right place. This is the Sean Hannity Show.
Well, the first step is find out exactly what happened. And we're trying to get our arms around that, getting all the relevant information from the various agencies, and starting to talk to some of the people that have information. You know, the thing that's interesting about this is that this was handled at a very senior level of these departments. It wasn't handled in the ordinary way that investigations or counterintelligence activities are conducted. It was sort of an ad hoc small group, and most of these people are no longer with the FBI or the CIA or the other agencies involved.
This appears to run deep. Why is it so hard to figure out?
Well, there are two things here. One, no one's really looked at it. I think there's a misconception out there that we know a lot about what happened. The fact of the matter is, Bob Mueller did not look at the government's activities. He was looking at whether or not the Trump campaign had conspired with the Russians. But he was not going back and looking at the counterintelligence program. And we have a number of investigations underway that touch upon it, the main one being the Office of Inspector General that's looking at the FISA warrants. But as far as I'm aware, no one has really looked across the whole waterfront.
Nobody has looked across the entire waterfront. And Mueller did not look at what the inner workings were. Now, the problem is that Mueller had a broad mandate. And the broad mandate entitled him... What time are we out, JC? I'll explain this on the other side. The mandate was broad enough to look at taxi medallions, taxes, and loan applications. Why not the dossier and FISA?
Are you looking for a radio station near you that runs Sean Hannity? Well, you can locate it on our affiliate finder at Hannity.com.
NBC News Radio, I'm Tom Roberts. Missouri apparently will be the next state to put severe restrictions on abortions. The state legislature is giving final approval to a bill which bans abortions after 8 weeks of pregnancy. NBC correspondent Kristen Dahlgren has more.
It now goes to Governor Mike Parson, who has spoken out already in favor of this bill, saying it would make Missouri one of the strongest pro-life states in the country.
The measure contains exceptions for medical emergencies, but not for rape or incest. Alabama passed a law which bans nearly all abortions earlier this week. An investigation by Ohio State reveals a former athletic team doctor sexually abused at least 177 students during his 20-year career at the university. Today's release of the findings wraps up a year-long probe into the conduct of Dr. Richard Strauss, who took his own life in 2005. A bill which updates the 1964 Civil Rights Act to include a ban on discriminating against LGBTQ individuals is clearing the House along largely partisan lines. New York Congressman Jerry Nadler is a Democrat who strongly supports the bill.
This long overdue legislation will provide millions of LGBTQ Americans protections from being denied medical care, fired from their jobs, or thrown out of their homes simply because of who they are.
The bill faces an uphill battle in the Republican-controlled Senate. Attorney General Bill Barr is defending his look into the origins of the Russia investigation. Barr says he wants to determine whether government officials abused their power and tried to put their thumb on the scale.
It was sort of an ad hoc small group, and most of these people are no longer with the FBI or the CIA or the other agencies involved.
Barr said he's not saying that happened, but noted that it's something that has to be looked at. President Trump tweets his campaign was conclusively spied on in 2016. Celebrated American author Herman Wouk is dead at the age of 103. Wouk won the Pulitzer Prize for The Caine Mutiny, which was turned into the 1954 classic film starring Humphrey Bogart as Captain Queeg. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio.
This world can hurt you. It cuts you deep and leaves a scar.
Miley Cyrus may be dropping her new album later this month. She shared a teaser video on Instagram with the words, "She is coming," and the date May 30th. Cyrus will also be starring in an upcoming new episode of Netflix's hit series Black Mirror. Tickets are on sale for the Jonas Brothers' new Happiness Begins tour dates. The brothers added 23 new shows to the tour last week due to a high demand for tickets for the original dates. The trek now runs from August to December with stops in over 40 cities. The Joe Bros Happiness Begins album drops June 7th. Former late-night TV talk show host David Letterman is Willie Geist's special guest on NBC's Sunday Today this weekend. Geist said it was fascinating to hear Letterman talk about a new life after retiring from 33 years of his talk show.
He discovered Costco and the long process of signing up and getting the ID and just being in total awe of that place.
Letterman also tells Geist he's not shaving his white beard because he's afraid to see what's under there. Carly Rae Jepsen is back with a brand new album. The pop singer dropped her latest project titled Dedicated Thursday night. It includes her latest singles Party for One, Now That I Found You, No Drug Like Me, and Too Much. That's entertainment. Lisa G, NBC News Radio.
iHeartRadio is now #1 for podcasts, and we'd like to say thanks. Thanks for downloading and listening to some of our 25,000 hit podcasts, and thanks for letting us introduce you to some of our favorites, like Disgraceland, the Ron Burgundy podcast, and Anna Faris is Unqualified podcast. We know we have something for everyone, so find yours now on the iHeartRadio app. Oh, and listening is always free, even if you want to download them to your phone so you can listen later. Your music, your stations, and #1 for podcasts.
iHeartRadio.
Sean Hannity on iHeartRadio.
Followed my dad's advice to always prove myself and do what I can in the Navy and make him proud, make everyone proud. So I try to do that with everything I do. Being a woman, it's sometimes more challenging because we have to wear the same amount of gear that a man does, and we have to do the same amount of pull-ups that a man does for the physical training and the test. It's a challenge, but you can do it. You just got to set your mind to it. Taught me how to be a leader, independent, confident.
That's All Hands Radio News. For more information, go to Navy.mil, Navy.mil/underway, and Navy.mil/am.
Mainstream press talking about this stuff. Sean Hannity is on the radio.
All right, 25 till the top of the hour. I want to go back because these comments by the Attorney General, William Barr, about Robert Mueller, and I want to go through a few more of these cuts and really delve deep into what he is saying and suggesting here, because there's key words in this that I want you to listen to. And this was from this morning, his interview with Bill Hemmer.
You also said back in April that you thought there was spying going on in the Trump campaign. When do you think that started?
Well, I'm not going to speculate about when it started. We're going to find out when it started.
It's been said that it was July of 2016. Does that sound right to you?
Again, I don't want to speculate. What I will say is that I've been trying to get answers to questions, and I found that a lot of the answers have been inadequate. And I've also found that some of the explanations I've gotten don't hang together. So in a sense, I have more questions today than I did when I first started.
Some of what things don't hang together?
Some of the explanations of what occurred.
Why does that matter?
Well, because I think people have to find out what the government was doing during that period. If we're worried about foreign influence, for the very same reason, we should be worried about whether government officials abuse their power and put their thumb on the scale. And so I'm not saying that happened, but I'm saying that we have to look at that.
Wow. What he's saying here is that they put their thumb on the scale? Mueller didn't look into this, but he had the broadest mandate as it relates to a Russian dossier that was used to spy on an opposition party candidate. You know, he's saying it without saying it, and the answers have been inadequate. And the explanations don't band together. And he's right. He sees much more than he's letting on, obviously. And I actually think these comments by Joe DeGeneva really should be paid very close attention to. We'll go to cut 9, Jason, because he says Horowitz has already concluded, meaning the IG. Horowitz. And what that means is I'm sure that he has told the Attorney General what he's been working on and what he's found. Remember, Horowitz did an extensive job. He found the page-struck text that nobody else would give us. And this is so clear-cut that the FISA judges were misled, and that is an abuse of power, that they literally premeditated what is a fraud on the court for the purposes of spying on an opposition party candidate in the hopes of influencing an election. Extraordinarily dangerous. Here's what DeGenevitt says is happening now.
Horowitz has already concluded that the final 3 FISAs were completely illegal. He's now on the brink of finding that the first FISA was completely illegal. Durham has already used a grand jury in Connecticut. They've already gotten documents. He's already talked to the intel people.
How long has this been going on? Do we really know how long this?
Durham's been working for a couple of months. So the bottom line is this. This is now big time. This is where Brennan needs 5 lawyers. Comey needs 5 lawyers.
Are they lawyered up sufficiently?
Well, I hope Comey has someone other than Mr. Richmond to whom he leaked his memos.
That is profound and deep also. And I think the fact that Mueller had the opportunity to look into all this. Now, we made time for Ukraine in the 80s or 90s, whatever, and issues with them that had nothing to do with Paul Manafort's time with the president. He made time to look into financial taxi medallion issues involving Michael Cohen and loan applications for both men. And, you know, he had time to go over people's taxes. I mean, going back decades, which is fine. And the mandate was broad enough. But when you're investigating some type of Russian election issue, to ignore the dirty dossier, it was known it was dirty, is inexplicable to me, which is why I don't think Mueller ultimately testifies. You know, Nadler's saying that Barr will face a lawsuit if Congress holds him in contempt. I mean, it's ridiculous. They're asking the Attorney General to break the law and reveal grand jury testimony. It's only 1 full sentence and 7 partial sentences that are redacted for people like Nadler. It's a show. It's a circus. It is, you know, we're going to get the sergeant of arms to handcuff the Attorney General of the United States for not breaking the law, for refusing your order to break the law, and your lawmakers. And of course, they don't want to question the Attorney General themselves, so they want to take a 206-year history and precedent of only members that are elected and accountable to the voters. We want lawyers to question you. They don't have enough confidence, I guess, in their abilities. Let's go back to Barr. Answers to my questions have been inadequate. We have to see if government officials abuse power. Let's play this.
You also said back in April that you thought there was spying going on in the Trump campaign. When do you think that started?
Well, I'm not going to speculate about when it started. We're going to find out when it started.
It's been said that it was July of 2016. Does that sound right to you?
Again, I don't want to speculate. What I will say is that I've been trying to get answers to questions, and I found that a lot of the answers have been inadequate. And I've also found that some of the explanations I've gotten don't hang together. So in a sense, I have more questions today than I did when I first started.
Some of what things don't hang together?
Some of the explanations of what occurred.
Why does that matter?
Well, because I think people have to find out what the government was doing during that period. If we're worried about foreign influence, for the very same reason, we should be worried about whether government officials abused their power and put their thumb on the scale. And so I'm not saying that happened, but I'm saying that we have to look at that.
Nancy Pelosi, she believes you lied under oath. What do you think of that charge?
Well, I think it's a laughable charge, and I think it's largely being made to try to discredit me, partly because they may be concerned about the outcome of a review of what happened during the election. But obviously, you can look at the face of my testimony and see on its face that there's nothing inaccurate about it.
Nothing inaccurate about it. But again, that's another issue. The media can't let go of their lie either. Understand, for them to admit that they have peddled in anonymous sources, lies, conspiracies, conspiracy theories, and an ultimate hoax while missing the biggest story of their careers, that's too much for a news organization to actually admit that they screwed up that badly. It's that severe. What is going on here? And now it's all, whether the media or the Democrats want to admit this or not, Mueller's done. The Attorney General has said so. And the only thing that remains here is all this story that we've told you that has real evidence. Rigging an investigation into a presidential candidate that's favored, using phony, unverified, one candidate's Russian disinformation to literally as the basis to spy, committing a huge fraud on a FISA court and FISA court judges, again to influence the election, and then to try and bludgeon a candidate with lies and conspiracies after an election because they didn't want to be caught. That's why I can't understand why they're all talking. Now, this is Barr talking about Trump wanting to remove someone because of conflicts of interest is not obstruction. Now, remember, the underlying crime of collusion, conspiracy, Russia, the Mueller report is clear. There has to be some intent. And the idea that the president somehow, by complaining about Rod Rosenstein publicly and proclaiming his innocence, or showing frustration over 2+ years of nonstop interference in the job he wants to do and was hired to do, is normal. Trey Gowdy famously asked, well, if you're innocent, act like you're innocent. How do innocent people act? I think they act with outrage that they're being accused of something they didn't do. That's how I think they would act. That's how I think I would act. Anyway, let me get to, if I can, this is what Barr is saying. The president saying that publicly because he's innocent. If Mueller would have been fired, but the president had all the authority to fire him under Article 2. But there would have been another special counsel appointed. There was no stopping that. And the president expressed frustration, but let him do his job anyway. Listen to what Barr said.
That's a misconception. He was not asked to change his testimony. That was a reaction to a press story in the New York Times that claimed that Trump had told him to fire Mueller. And Trump, in this, I'm just going by what the report said. I'm not arguing the case, but Trump was mad at the word fire and claimed he never began to fire Mueller. And in fact, elsewhere, the report does say that McGahn was told by Trump to talk to Rosenstein to complain about conflicts of interest that Mueller had and have Mueller removed for conflicts of interest. And there's a difference, because if you remove someone for a conflict of interest, presumably someone else is going to be put in to continue the investigation. And what Trump was being accused of in the New York Times was just outright directing the firing of Mueller.
Wow. Now, there were conflicts with Mueller. Remember, the day before Mueller was appointed by Rod Rosenstein to be the special counsel, well, he wanted the FBI job. And Trump said no. Then they had some conflict in the past. So Trump's looking at this team of his pit bull, Andrew Weissman, only Democratic donors, no Republican donors. He even hired Jeannie Ray, who worked for Clinton on the Clinton Foundation. No wonder why they didn't touch the dirty Clinton Russian paid for dossier. So that would be, and there would have been someone else appointed. Not like it would, but the media was like, it's going to be a Saturday night massacre. Then it's interesting to watch when Barr says he's okay with Mueller testifying, because I don't think Mueller wants to testify, because in spite of what the media thinks they're going to get out of this, he's going to have to also answer a whole series of other questions. When did he know about that there was no collusion or conspiracy to collude or whatever? Why did you hire only Democrats? Why did you hire as your pit bull Andrew Weissman, whose record we've gone over repeatedly? Why did you not investigate the dossier? Why did you? It's Russia related. Now the New York Times is calling it Russian disinformation, and those that signed the FISA warrants, and then it would have led to FISA fraud. But Barr said he's fine with Mueller testifying.
You're okay with him testifying?
Absolutely.
He works for you?
Yes.
Or under you?
Yes.
Or did? What seems to be the holdup? Jerry Nadler said this week it will happen soon. Perhaps it happens in June or not. Do you have any information on that?
My understanding is that Chairman Nadler is talking this over with Bob Mueller and his staff and trying to schedule it.
So you expect it to happen?
I have no reason to think it won't.
Okay. I have no reason to think it won't. I don't think Mueller wants to. And by the way, I think there are issues of executive privilege that can be invoked by Trump. Now, he acknowledged that he joked with Pelosi about handcuffs, which I just thought was funny, because that's all they've been talking about. Send the sergeant at arms, handcuff the attorney general, make him testify. Listen.
You reportedly had a conversation with her this week.
Yes.
What did you say to her?
Well, I wouldn't call it a conversation. It was more like an icebreaker. I was introduced, and I asked her if she had brought her handcuffs with her.
And she said?
I didn't really quite hear what she said, but she wasn't unpleasant about it.
Wasn't unpleasant about it. I think, come on, that is hilarious. Shows that he has a sense of humor, which you gotta like, especially because everyone's trying to destroy him, which he had to know was going to happen anyway. And he talks about why are Democrats annoyed that they didn't have a chance to spin the Mueller report findings. This is a great answer, short, but it's great.
What she will say, and Democrats will say, is that you were spinning on behalf of the president with the principal conclusions that you released. They leveled charges that you held back the Mueller report for several weeks. Were you spinning for the White House to buy some time?
No, I wasn't. I think what they're really perhaps annoyed about is that they didn't have an opportunity to spin, and that the fundamental findings of the report were out there for everybody to see, and they were not in a position to spin.
Because he released the whole report. I mean, that's what makes this so profound. And for the Nadlers and the Schiffs of the world, the only guy we have on tape colluding with Russia is the cowardly Schiff. Busika, what? Yes, and what is the damaging, compromising information on Trump? Naked picture Trump. And has Vladimir seen it? Yes, but of course, Vladimir's seen the naked Trump. Okay. What did he want to do in that whole conversation? I mean, the irony of this, Hillary's bought and paid for Russian dossier, the cowardly Schiff's conversation colluding with a Russian. You can't make it up, but it's all too dangerous.
The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but. Sean Hannity's on right now.
American way. Of course, the next best thing to a seat in the stands is a seat in front of a 19-inch RCA Victor television. One more day to Labor Day weekend, the traditional occasion for tasty outdoor barbecues or picnics.
Agree with all the obstacles and with all the enemies who are between me and
Thank you.